ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So we were doing that hadith, the third one. Do you remember the first two? The first two people who will get the shade of the throne. The first one was just ruler, and the second one was
the young in worship.
Yes, the youth that grows up in worship. The third one was وَرَجُلٌ قَلْبُهُ مُعَلَّقٌ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ, the person whose heart is always tethered to the mosques. This is why we actually chose this hadith, because we were doing the virtues of congregation, right? And this is one of the virtues of congregation. The person whose heart is tethered to the mosque is the person who comes to the mosque multiple times. And for a person who's coming multiple times, he's only coming for one reason. He's not coming here to sleep or play. He's coming here for congregation. So what does that mean? Mu'allaq, tethered, it actually means like, I probably should not, it's okay, we can use this. So, this is mu'allaq. You know how this mic, it's with my fingers where I'm pinching it, this is mu'allaq, suspended. So when this guy goes around, the center of curvature, which is my fingers, the point where my fingers are pinching, that's the center of curvature, center of rotation. So that's not moving, right? Pretty much stationary. But this mic is just moving around. So this mic is that one person, the rajul, who's going around. He's going to his job and family and other occupations. All of these are along the route. But where's he coming? Where's the centripetal force actually? Yeah, towards this. So this is that rajul, and he's being stuck kind of like to the mosque. So this does not mean that the person who stays in the mosque for a long time. It doesn't mean a person who's just sitting in the mosque 24/7. It means a person who actually goes out in his life, does everything, but is tethered like this to the mosque. And he's always, mentally, he's always like, okay, so what time is it? Oh, gotcha. Okay, so I have 35 more minutes to wrap this up, and then I have to head to the mosque. So, he's tethered to the mosque. He's stuck to the mosque, suspended by it. This is رَجُلٌ مُعَلَّقٌ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. Now, there's one thing that we should talk about, is a misconception nowadays, that you cannot do both. You cannot be successful in worldly affairs while being successful in the religious ones. And we have many examples, but since we usually use the companions radiyallahu majma'in as the example, we'll talk about another companion today. His name is Abdurrahman ibn Auf radiyallahu anh. He was very wealthy when the Muslims were in Makkah. When they decided to migrate to Medina, he migrated with them, and he left all of his wealth behind. To the point where when he got to Medina, the Prophet ﷺ, he made masawat, he made pacts between the people who migrated and the people who were residents in Medina. Because these people, the ones who migrated, left everything. They had nothing, literally penniless. So what the Prophet ﷺ did, he would choose one of the residents and make him a brother in Islam to the other one. Now, it was the resident's responsibility to take care of all of his needs. So he was made a brother with, I believe it was Sa'd radiyallahu anh, Sa'd ibn Rabi'a. So Sa'd was very wealthy as well. In Medina, he was very wealthy. So when that happened, Sa'd goes, this in itself is like monumental. Sa'd goes, I'll split half and half with you. He goes, what? Everything. Like all of my wealth, we go 50-50. You take 50% of it, because you're my brother now. You take 50%, I'll keep the remaining 50. I have so much, I have more than enough. So he goes, Barakallahu fi ahlika wa malik. May Allah Azza wa Jal give you blessings in your family and your wealth. Dulluni ala suq. Show me the way to the market. He had an exceptional business acumen, Abdurrahman. So he goes, okay. So he showed him to the market. He did not return until he had turned a profit on the first day. And he started accruing more and more wealth. He was an amazing businessman. To the point where another companion, I believe it was Talha radiyallahu anh, he says that all of Medina would benefit from Abdurrahman and his wealth. 1/3 of Medina had, and this is like a full city, right? So 1/3 of Medina had their personal debts paid off by Abdurrahman because they were not able to do that. 1/3 of them were given business loans that Abdurrahman never really asked for again. They were given on the basis of a loan, but he just didn't take them back. And the remaining 1/3 would just benefit generally from his charity. Where it got to the point where he built such an empire where his zakat was, according to some estimates, where his zakat alone, which is 1/40th of a person's wealth, was about $27 million in today's money. That was his zakat. So you can imagine, and in some years, coming penniless to Medina. So this is the type of entrepreneur he was. Now let's look at how he was attached to the masajid. When the Prophet ﷺ would, he would always lead the prayer when he was there. So Abdurrahman was very famous for being in the first row. Not only just coming to the masajid for the congregation, but always being in the first row and usually right behind the Prophet, right behind the Imam. That's the spot where, we haven't done this, but that's the spot where the most amount of blessings descend, right behind the Imam. So if you have a choice, don't let Brother Abdurrahman take the spot, take it. So he would usually be over there. So there was one very famous battle of Tabuk, very, very difficult for the Muslims. So it was Fajr time, and the Prophet ﷺ, he had to relieve himself. It was the habit of the Prophet ﷺ, he would go very far to relieve himself. So at this point he actually rode, there was a person who was with him. They rode together to a faraway place, and then the Prophet, by the time he came back, he was, they were about to miss the prayer, like the time was very nearing the sunrise. So the companions decided to just start the prayer without the Prophet ﷺ. And guess whom they chose? The person right behind, the Imam. So they forwarded Abdurrahman. So when the Prophet ﷺ returned, they had already finished 1 rak'ah. So Abdurrahman actually, when he realized the Prophet was here, he tried to step back, but the Prophet signaled that no, complete your prayer, I'm going to pray behind you. So he prayed behind him. So the companions tell us that there were only 2 companions that the Prophet ever in his life prayed behind, a full rak'ah. One of them was Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, in the Prophet ﷺ's illness, and the second was Abdurrahman radiallahu anh, in Tabuk. Similarly, after the Prophet passed away, his conviction to the mosque, it never wavered. It kept the same way. Where to the point where it's very interesting. There was Umar radiallahu anh, he was martyred. He was assassinated while he was praying in congregation. At that time, Fajr was, it was darker over there. The assassin was in the first row. He was waiting for a congregation to begin. When it began, he came and stabbed him with a poison dagger multiple times. And he tried to run away. That's another story. Maybe if you get time, we'll one day discuss it, inshallah. So Umar radiallahu anh, just look at Umar too. Like these Sahaba, they're just strange people. They're just weird creations of Allah Azza wa Jal. Like it's very difficult for a person to emulate them. Now Umar, he's been stabbed multiple times by a poison dagger. And he knows, this is, he may probably be dying soon. You know what he does before he passes out? He grabs the person behind him to push him forward. That don't let the salah actually be left incomplete, because even though you are allowed to break the salah in certain circumstances, if the imam becomes incapacitated, that's not a reason to break the salah. Somebody has to step up and lead the salah and complete it. Like this is how important prayer is. You're in meeting with Allah Azza wa Jal. So before passing out, just imagine this guy's psychology. He's passing out, and what he does is he grabs the person behind him and pulls him forward to lead the prayer. Guess who he was? It was Abdurrahman. He was standing right behind Umar. So he usually Fajr is longer because that's the sunnah of the Prophet. But obviously this situation, Abdurrahman just uses, like, I think the first rak'ah he did Suratul Asr, the second he did Suratul Kawthar, and he really completely finished it really quick. So they could attend to the assassin. So this was Abdurrahman radiallahu anh. So this misconception needs to be, it needs to be taken away. So many educated people, like very, very well educated and among the academics, They would tell me, oh, well, you're sitting in the masjid, you're spending too much time in the masjid. This is not what Islam is about. Just very strange statements. This is not correct. So, yeah. And once a person actually connects himself to the mosque, when he comes to meet Allah Azza wa Jal, there's barakah in his rizq. So even if he's working less, he will be getting more. Abdurrahman radiallahu anhu, I just remembered, there was one thing he used to say it was very interesting. He would say, I feel like I go to because he was very successful. In Islam, you're not supposed to aggrandize wealth. Like he would just donate, and like I told you, the whole city was benefiting from his donations. But he said, Allah Azza wa Jal gives me so much blessings, so much barakah in my provisions, that I would go to the souk late. Usually all the merchants would go there early so they can get the best deals, But he would go late. And even when I pick up a rock, I find gold under it. It's kind of like that. Whenever I pick up like the simplest thing that doesn't even look like a good deal, but Allah Azza wa Jal gives gold in exchange. This is what happens when a person is meeting with Allah Azza wa Jal 5 times regularly, because that's what their main goal is in life. So may Allah Azza wa Jal make us a rajul, make us a man who is connected and tethered to the masajid. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.